Iran and the United States have offered starkly different accounts of a drone incident near the USS Abraham Lincoln, and even the drone's model is disputed. CENTCOM says an F-35C shot down an Iranian Shahed 139 that approached the carrier. Iranian state-linked media calls it a Shahed 129 and says contact was lost after a surveillance mission. Iran's state-linked media says a Shahed 129 conducted surveillance in international waters and later lost contact after transmitting imagery. The U.S. military says an F-35C from the carrier shot down what CENTCOM identified as a Shahed 139 that approached aggressively. Iran calls it Shahed 129. CENTCOM calls it Shahed 139. So even the drone's model is disputed. This discrepancy illustrates how the two accounts diverge on basic facts, not just interpretation. The two narratives present fundamentally different versions of the same incident. Iran frames it as routine surveillance ending mysteriously. The U.S. frames it as an aggressive approach requiring defensive action. The discrepancy over the drone's model represents one of several factual disputes between the accounts. Iran's state-linked media identifies the drone as a Shahed 129, described as a long-range reconnaissance platform. CENTCOM identifies it as a Shahed 139. Whether these are the same drone with different designations, different drones entirely, or a reporting error by one side cannot be determined from available information. The disagreement on model adds to the challenge of reconciling the accounts. The Shahed 129 is described in Iranian reporting as designed for surveillance and monitoring missions. Western reporting has noted various Iranian drone platforms with different capabilities and designations. This factual dispute, before even reaching questions of intent or outcome, illustrates why independent verification of military incidents between adversaries is typically difficult or impossible. According to an informed source speaking with the Tasnim news agency, the drone was conducting what Iran describes as a routine and legal mission of reconnaissance, monitoring, and imaging in international waters, according to Iranian state-linked reporting. The Shahed 129 drone was conducting its routine and legal mission of reconnaissance, monitoring, and imaging in international waters. This is considered a standard and lawful procedure, the source said, according to Tasnim. Iranian media claims the drone transmitted imagery back to ground stations before contact was lost. The drone successfully sent its surveillance and reconnaissance images to the control center, but communication was lost afterward, the source said, according to the Iranian reporting. The reason for the loss of contact is currently under review, and further details will be announced once the investigation is complete, the Tasnim source said. This framing avoids directly contradicting the U.S. account while not confirming it either. Iran's Fars news agency reported that the drone completed a surveillance mission in international waters before contact was lost. The reporting emphasized that the drone's primary mission was to monitor and collect data on regional military movements occurring near Iran's maritime boundaries. The Iranian account does not acknowledge that the drone was shot down by U.S. forces. Instead, it describes the end of the drone's mission as a loss of contact under review. This narrative choice serves specific purposes. The characterization of the mission as routine and legal contrasts with CENTCOM's description of an aggressive approach. Whether the drone was conducting standard surveillance or approaching the carrier in a threatening manner cannot be independently verified. Iranian media claims the drone transmitted imagery back to ground stations before contact was lost. Whether this transmitted data has operational value or whether the emphasis on transmission is primarily for domestic messaging cannot be determined from the public statements. U.S. defense officials said that American forces had intercepted and shot down an Iranian drone operating in the area during the same period, according to reporting on the incident. The U.S. military stated that the drone was moving toward the USS Abraham Lincoln, triggering a defensive response. CENTCOM says an F-35C fighter jet launched from the Abraham Lincoln engaged the Iranian drone and destroyed it in self-defense, according to the official U.S. statement. CENTCOM says U.S. forces attempted de-escalatory steps before firing, according to the statement. CENTCOM described the approach as aggressive while saying the drone's intent was unclear, according to the U.S. military account. No American service members were harmed during the incident and no U.S. equipment was damaged, according to CENTCOM. Iran's UN mission declined to comment on the drone shoot-down incident when contacted by Reuters, according to the reporting. The lack of official Iranian diplomatic comment, combined with the state media account, leaves the two versions unreconciled. Iran's characterization that communication was lost afterward rather than acknowledging the drone was shot down represents a specific narrative choice. The Iranian account leaves open the possibility of other explanations while the investigation continues. The reason for the loss of contact is currently under review, and further details will be announced once the investigation is complete, the Tasnim source said, according to the Iranian reporting. This framing delays any definitive Iranian statement on what ended the drone's mission. Whether Iran eventually acknowledges the shoot-down, offers an alternative explanation, or maintains ambiguity may depend on diplomatic and domestic political calculations. State media accounts often serve strategic messaging purposes. The gap between the two accounts, surveillance mission with lost contact versus aggressive approach requiring defensive shoot-down, represents the kind of narrative divergence common in military incidents between adversaries. CENTCOM further reported that armed units from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had also been involved in an incident with a U.S.-flagged merchant vessel transiting the Strait of Hormuz, according to the U.S. military statement. This second incident occurred in the same general time frame. The statement said that two IRGC patrol boats, accompanied by an Iranian Mohajer drone, moved in close proximity to the commercial tanker identified as MV Stina Imperative, according to CENTCOM. CENTCOM says IRGC boats threatened to board and seize the tanker. Maritime trackers say the ship sped up and continued under escort. In response, the guided missile destroyer USS McFaul was dispatched to escort the merchant vessel, providing protective cover. The situation de-escalated as a result, and the U.S. flag tanker is proceeding safely, according to CENTCOM. Iran has not publicly commented on this specific incident in the reports reviewed. The presence of USS McFaul in the area and its dispatch to escort the tanker demonstrates U.S. naval capability to respond to incidents involving commercial shipping. The successful de-escalation represents a contained incident rather than ongoing confrontation. Vanguard, a maritime risk group, said the boats ordered the tanker to stop and prepare for boarding, according to Reuters. Instead, the tanker sped up and continued its voyage. The tanker's response avoided boarding. The Stena Imperative incident follows patterns of previous IRGC interactions with commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Such incidents have occurred periodically during periods of elevated tension between the U.S. and Iran. The combination of the drone incident and tanker incident on the same day creates a more concerning picture than either incident alone. Whether the incidents were coordinated or coincidental is not established in the available reporting. These military developments unfolded as Washington and Tehran prepare to resume nuclear negotiations, according to reporting on the diplomatic track. Addressing the incident, the White House press secretary stated that the downing of the drone had not altered the planned date for the upcoming diplomatic discussions. The continuation of talks despite the incident suggests both sides are compartmentalizing military events from diplomatic engagement. Whether this separation can be maintained depends on how the situation develops. However, U.S. officials emphasize that President Donald Trump continued to keep a wide range of strategic options available should the talks with Iran fail, according to the reporting. The statement maintains pressure while proceeding with diplomacy. Around the same time, President Trump publicly warned that Iran must cooperate and engage constructively in the negotiations to avoid further escalation, according to reported remarks. The combination of diplomatic engagement and warnings characterizes the administration's approach. Trump addressed the status of negotiations in public remarks. They are negotiating. They'd like to do something, and we'll see if something is going to be done, Trump said, according to reported comments. They had a chance to do something a while ago, and it didn't work out. I don't think they want that happening again, but they would like to negotiate. We are negotiating with them right now, Trump said, according to the reporting. The statement confirms active diplomatic engagement despite the incidents. When asked about the meeting location, Trump did not provide specific details, according to the reported exchange. Reports have differed on the venue, so location details should be treated as still in flux. Reuters says U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi are expected to meet, while other reports have differed on the venue. A regional diplomat told Reuters that representatives from countries such as Saudi Arabia and Egypt may also participate. Reports have indicated that Iran is pressing for direct bilateral discussions with the United States while seeking to exclude regional partners from the dialogue, according to reporting on Iranian preferences. This positioning affects how any talks might be structured. Iran has also reportedly signaled that it intends for the talks to focus strictly on nuclear-related issues, avoiding discussions on its missile program or regional proxy activities, according to the reports. This framework differs from reported U.S. preferences for comprehensive negotiations. Iraqi said Iran's defensive and missile capabilities would not be part of negotiations, according to Reuters. At the same time, he said Iran remains open to serious diplomacy as long as its legal rights and security concerns are respected. The gap between Iranian preferences for narrow nuclear-focused talks and broader U.S. demands presents challenges for negotiations. Whether the format and scope can be agreed upon affects prospects for substantive progress. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, responded to the diplomatic developments, according to Iranian state media. After the failure of this recent conspiracy, now they are the ones who are talking about diplomacy again, Khamenei said, according to the reporting. We have always been ready for diplomacy, provided that it is from an equal position, provided that it is for mutual respect and to secure different interests, Khamenei said, according to state media. The framing positions Iran as responsive rather than seeking talks. With the Iranian people, we must speak with respect. Whoever speaks with respect will receive a response with respect. Whoever speaks with threats and force will be responded to in the same language, Khamenei said, according to the reporting. We are ready for diplomacy, but they should know that diplomacy with threats, intimidation, and pressure is not compatible. Diplomacy has its own ideology, Khamenei said, according to state media. The statement set conditions for Iranian engagement while keeping diplomatic channels open. The drone incident illustrates how competing narratives emerge from military encounters between adversaries. Iran frames its drone as conducting routine surveillance before mysteriously losing contact. The U.S. frames the same encounter as an aggressive approach requiring defensive action. Both narratives serve domestic and strategic purposes. Iran's account avoids acknowledging a military loss while maintaining its position on lawful activity. The U.S. account justifies the use of force while emphasizing defensive intent. Iran calls it Shahed 129. CENTCOM calls it Shahed 139. So even the drone's model is disputed. Neither account can be independently verified from available information. For observers, the divergent accounts highlight the challenges of assessing incidents in contested environments. Both sides have incentives to frame events favorably, and independent confirmation is typically unavailable. Despite the divergent narratives, both sides agree that something happened involving an Iranian drone near the USS Abraham Lincoln. The basic facts of an encounter are not disputed, even if the characterization differs dramatically. Both accounts place the incident in the same general time frame and location. Both describe Iranian drone activity. Both acknowledge that the drone's mission ended, though they describe that ending very differently. The agreement on basic facts while disagreeing on characterization and even on the drone's model designation is typical of military incidents between adversaries. Each side interprets the same events through its own strategic and narrative lens. For the upcoming negotiations, how both sides handle these incidents, whether they become obstacles or are set aside, may indicate broader prospects for diplomatic progress. The timing of these incidents, just days before scheduled nuclear talks, raises concerns about escalation dynamics. Military encounters during sensitive diplomatic periods can complicate negotiations or derail them entirely. The White House statement that the drone incident has not altered the planned date suggests an effort to insulate diplomacy from military friction. Whether this compartmentalization holds depends on whether additional incidents occur. The risk of miscalculation remains elevated during periods combining military deployment and active diplomacy. The drone incident and tanker harassment demonstrate how quickly situations can develop, requiring immediate responses. Whether these incidents represent deliberate testing, routine operations that happen to coincide with heightened tensions, or something else cannot be determined from available information. The pattern raises questions regardless of intent. The incidents occur against the backdrop of significant U.S. military positioning in the region. Reuters reported the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier group has arrived in the U.S. Central Command region, and additional air defense systems are being deployed. The Wall Street Journal reports U.S. officials say more air defenses are needed before any strike to protect bases and partners. Those officials describe retaliation risk as a key constraint on timing and scale, according to the reporting. Reports show additional F-15Es have deployed, and F-35As were seen transiting toward Europe, final destination not confirmed. THAAD and Patriot air defense systems are reportedly being deployed to U.S. bases across the Middle East. The defensive preparations suggest U.S. military planners take Iranian retaliation capabilities seriously. The drone shoot-down, from the U.S. perspective, demonstrates both capability and willingness to use force in response to perceived threats. Iran's emphasis that the drone transmitted imagery before losing contact serves messaging purposes regardless of what actually ended its mission. The account portrays Iranian capabilities as functioning effectively. Iranian media claims the drone transmitted imagery back to ground stations before contact was lost. This framing emphasizes mission accomplishment over mission termination. The characterization of the activity as monitoring regional military movements occurring near Iran's maritime boundaries positions the surveillance as defensive rather than provocative. The framing serves Iranian narratives about defensive posture. Whether the transmitted imagery has operational value or whether the emphasis on transmission is primarily for domestic messaging cannot be determined from the public statements. The continuation of diplomatic preparations despite the incidents suggests that both sides see value in engagement that outweighs the friction of military encounters. Neither has used the incidents to cancel or delay talks. The White House explicitly stated the drone incident had not altered planned dates. Iran's continued discussion of negotiating conditions suggests Tehran also intends to proceed. The incidents have not yet derailed diplomacy. However, additional incidents or escalation could change this calculation. The parallel tracks of military positioning and diplomatic engagement create ongoing tension that either track could disrupt. Whether the talks can produce progress while military incidents continue, or whether the military track eventually overwhelms the diplomatic one, remains the central question of the current crisis period. The upcoming talks create a near-term opportunity that could shape both military and diplomatic decisions. The proximity of the discussion suggests both sides see urgency in engaging despite incidents and public posturing. Reuters says U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi are expected to meet, while other reports have differed on the venue, so location details should be treated as still in flux. The exact format remains subject to confirmation. A regional diplomat told Reuters that representatives from countries such as Saudi Arabia and Egypt may also participate. Iran has reportedly sought to exclude regional partners, creating potential tension over the talks' structure. Whether the talks represent a genuine opportunity for breakthrough or a preliminary meeting that leads to further talks cannot be determined in advance. Both outcomes remain possible based on available information. Iran and the United States have offered starkly different accounts